I posted that crying video on TikTok the same night, and my fiance's like, oh, why would you post that? The video has 14 million views. That was the video that was converting people to our website for sales, which, like, thank God I posted that.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and welcome to How They Scaled It, where scaling is done with both sides of the brain. On this show, we sit down with growth stage businesses and speak with the founders and industry leaders from the e-commerce and SaaS sectors. We showcase their journeys, unpacking the pivotal moments, marketing strategies, and key decisions that shaped their success. Today, we're thrilled to have not one, but two incredible guests, Aliett Buttelman and Nina LaBruna, co-founders of Fazit Beauty. Fazit has made a big splash in the beauty space with its viral glitter freckle patches and innovative skincare products, and both of our guests bring unique stories and expertise to this journey. Aliett's path is one of bold creativity, early entrepreneurial spirit, and scaling through viral moments, while Nina, with her deep background in chemistry and skincare innovation, grew up immersed in the beauty world. With parents who were cosmetic doctors, she began experimenting with plant ingredients at a young age, determined to create skincare solutions for people with sensitive skin and other challenges. Together, they've built a brand that's captured the imagination of the beauty industry and beyond. Today, we will dive into their journeys, from Aliett's time as a model and launching the DTC agency, to Nina's expertise in product development and nutrition, and how they together scaled Fazit's influence and reputation in the beauty space. Aliett and Nina, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to How They Scaled It.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Of course, of course. I want to start kind of at the beginning, and I'd like to hear what inspired you to start Fazit and how you guys got together.
So Aliett and I have been working together, believe it or not, like 6+ years. So I had graduated college and started a skincare line, and Aliett had also graduated from Columbia. I was at NYU. She had started her own consulting agency, and a friend of ours connected us and thought, hey, you two are my only friends who started your own businesses post-graduation, and I think you could actually really help each other out. So that was over 6 years ago, and Aliett and I have been working together ever since. We developed a bond, a friendship over the time, trust, and kind of learned where our strengths laid and how we could work together as business partners. And with that, knowledge from that first brand we started, we came together and decided to launch a business together with both of our passions, both of our expertise, and really with both of our visions aligned. And that's how we launched Fazit, which we've now had for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And we really wanted to create an accessible product for people that was fun, innovative, maybe, made new categories in the beauty space, redefined beauty. And we decided, why not get into the dermal patch space? That's something that is really fun and unique and really hasn't been explored yet. So that's kind of how the idea of patchwear started for Fazit. And we did initially launch with some pretty innovative skin patches, as you mentioned, like our ingrown hair patch, a scar patch. But going beyond that, last year, we were brainstorming, how do we create a new category in this space? And that's where we came up with the idea of makeup patchwear, like a more cosmetic patch. And I was looking at trends on TikTok and saw all of these freckle trends, people doing the broccoli trend and hand drawing freckles on their face. So why not create a seamless, easy application form of freckles? And that's where the idea started for freckle patches. And we do actually have a natural faux freckle patch on our site. But taking that idea even further, like, what can we do to really be innovative and bold and different here? Let's make the freckle sparkle. Like, people love sparkly things. It's pretty, it's feminine, it's different. And that's where we came up with the idea of the glitter freckle patches.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think what I really like about it is that you had this great idea around patches for more problem solution things like ingrown hairs and stuff. But to get people in and to pay attention to the company, you knew that you needed to create something that was like a little bit more fun and cute and like something to pull people in, and then introduce them to all these other cool things that you've been working on. So it sounds like both of you had been running your kind of doing your own thing, starting your own companies before you came together. What is the difference? What has the difference been between being a solo founder and being a co-founder, having a business partner?
Oh, I don't know how anyone's a solo founder. I mean, like, mad respect to them, because especially in the early days when like the highs are so high and but the lows are like at the lowest. that you really need like a support human to guide you along that process. And like my bad days might be some of Nina's good days, and somebody who can pick you up and understand exactly what you're going through is incredibly important. I think it's accountability, somebody to that keeps you moving forward and pushing the objective forward. I think it was really hard for me to scale as a solo entrepreneur back in the day, but that might have been youth at the time and lack of experience. But now I can't imagine it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that I speak to a lot of founders on this show and just like, you know, in my own networks. And anyone who doesn't have a co-founder is like, man, I just wish I had a co-founder. I just wish I had someone to talk to, because you start hiring people and the things that you really need to talk through, you can't talk to with them because, you know, they're your employees. And just to have someone on that same level who's like has as much skin in the game as you, I think is so powerful. And it's hard to find a good co-founder though. So I think you guys are pretty lucky.
No, 100%. I mean, it's funny. Years ago, we did a podcast about co-founder relationships and founder dynamics. And I remember the host asking us in the early days, oh, have you guys ever gotten in a fight or had conflict? And most co-founders break up, you know, and talking about all the challenges of working with somebody else. And one, thankfully, still today hasn't been our experience. But a lot of people find co-founders in the wrong ways of starting businesses with friends or family members and maybe having the same exact strengths. So we've been so lucky that we were able to become business partners before actually developing a friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that with my business partner, Alex, who she founded Right Left Agency. And then I came in very early on in the process. And we were definitely like business first, and then we developed a really strong friendship through that.
Yeah.
But we really have like very complementary strengths. And I think that sometimes people think a good founder is someone who you just get along with. But I think it's a lot deeper than that. It's about like balancing your strengths and, you know, creativity versus analytical thinking, and who is the visionary versus who's kind of getting the things done. And you really need both of those things. So I love that you found that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So if you haven't faced challenges with fighting with each other, tell me about the big challenges that you faced at the very beginning of Fazit with when you were just like developing the products and making your first sales.
We had no money.
Yeah.
That I think the stat is you need $1 million to make a successful beauty brand. We had $13,000, and that was between both of our savings. And a lot of money for, you know, two 22, 23-year-old girls to put together. The early days, when you don't have money, you're making sometimes decisions for the wrong reasons. If it's looking to fundraise, maybe taking money from the wrong people, letting other people's visions and opinions impact the direction of where you want to bring your company because you need their money. That was probably the hardest part of the early days. That, and neither of us had day jobs really. So living off of our savings to make this happen. And once the savings ran out, for me at least, like realizing you have to get some type of, you know, side hustle on top of your side hustle.
Right.
And that was really challenging, especially in such a foundational part of like your young adult life where your friends have graduated, they're getting their first jobs, they're climbing corporate ladders, they're experiencing security and stability, and they're saving and they're buying houses and they're going on vacation. And that's a lot of things that Nina and I had to sacrifice in order to keep driving the mission of building Fazit together.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have to constantly give yourself reassurance and believe in yourself. Like you face so much rejection in the beginning, and you do deal with self-doubt of like, oh, is this idea really that great? You know, is this going to go anywhere? Like you kind of have those questions in the back of your mind. And of course, I've always believed in us, but like you do have that little chitter chat voice back there, just because you've never built success before. So really, you're believing in yourself. And of course, like, you know, Aliett and I both have very supportive family and friends, and they all believed in us too. But the outside world and the majority of people don't really believe in you until you show them something to believe in. So it's kind of for me, it was a lot of that energy of having to really believe in myself in the beginning. And that's for years. You have to do that.
Yeah. Did you find that people, well, I guess you won't know this until you get older, but do you feel like people were treating you differently because you are so young? Like when you were starting this, you were in your early 20s. Like that's a really hard time to convince people you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the early days when we would create these pitch decks, and oftentimes in those pitches, you're supposed to speak upon your experience that makes you the
Right.
right person to build this company. And we had no experience. We never worked for somebody really before. It was really just like our ideas and faith in ourselves to make it happen. And no, we experienced so much. I think ageism, sexism, fundraising in a world of men was very difficult. We were treated differently. Our lack of experience. No, it was all really difficult in the beginning. But I think early on, like I think we would laugh at it a little bit of the rejection moments and be like, ha ha ha, like can't wait till we prove them wrong.
That
And
is true. We did say that.
and it's so funny because it totally happened now.
Yeah.
I mean, now all these people are, emailing us back and, want to be in the know and want to work with us and want to invest in us. That's a good feeling now.
Yeah.
There was I had a funny moment. I was just talking to a friend about this morning who is also a founder struggling with some of these things right now. And I said, I just had a funny thought where we literally, I remember we'd get on these VC calls in the beginning. We were so desperate for money. We wanted to take any money we could. And they all used to say, we just don't get it. Like, we don't get what you guys are doing. We don't get the concept. That was what a lot of them said. And now so many of them are like, you guys are killing it. Like, we see where you're going. I'm like, it's the same idea. Like,
Right. You
Yeah.
missed your shot.
it's so funny.
Do you feel like that has some like this kind of like uncompromising belief in what you're doing? Has that always been within you guys, or did you have to kind of like build that up and learn it once you started getting a little bit of that rejection?
I think it's a mix. I came from a world that was full of rejection. I worked as a fashion model since I was 15. So you would go to, 4 castings a day and you're not getting all of those jobs. So from an early age, I experienced rejection. I did take it personally in the early days. It definitely took it personally when we first started pitching to fundraise. And then you experience so much of it that then it's able to roll off and it has nothing to do with you. Like you realize like the inner workings of companies are just so complex and it's nothing is personal. Like everyone, is building their own business is on their own journeys.
Yeah, I think also, you realize that the people who do find success in life, they face a lot of rejection. And it's not necessarily those who are most talented or most genius or whatever it is. It's those who work hard and have a lot of grit and just can keep persevering and keep expanding and taking what they learn and reinventing and recreating and just keep moving. And it's those who win in life.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of a lesson I learned along the process, especially just seeing other people and founders, who were succeeding.
Yeah. And now it's like funny to get rejected.
Yeah.
Like every time we get rejected now, I'm like, oh wow, like that wasn't a great fit. Like I'm so happy that happened.
Right,
I'm so happy I didn't agree to something that like is not in the best interest of us personally or the business as a whole.
Yeah, like your business, whoever you partner with, they wouldn't reject you. So
Right,
if
it's
someone
like
rejected you,
dating.
then that's not a good fit.
Yeah, we always think of it like dating now. It's like
Yeah.
like not everyone is your perfect match.
Right. Yeah. I always like to think that like the only way that you can succeed is by not giving up. Like that's like the one thing that unites everyone who is successful is that they didn't give up. There are so many other people try to tie like keys to success to people, but the one thing that every successful person has in common is that they didn't stop. And so I've always been like, okay, well, if I just keep going, if I just wake up and like start doing something tomorrow, then that's the only way that they have to take it away from me basically.
Yeah. No, we always when people ask us advice of starting a company, we keep going back to just doing it. Like wake up in the morning and start like building the blocks of like whatever that future may hold for you. And it doesn't like have to be the same idea that you had initially going into things. I think it's adapting. Like nobody cares like what the end result
Yeah.
was compared to the beginning. I
Right.
mean, what our branding looked like, our logo, the product offerings, the mission, it has all changed completely. But we just knew that we wanted this to work so bad and woke up and tried to make it happen every single day.
Yeah. It's all about that pivot. You just got to pivot.
Yeah.
So you started the company, you guys didn't have any money, you're struggling through it, but how did you get your very first customer? How did that work?
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, we decided to create a TikTok channel in the early days when a lot of brands weren't getting on there. And for us, that was the cheapest way to reach the most amount of people. And that still is our strategy today.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford paid media. We couldn't afford to really get on Amazon yet because you had to pay all these fees. You had to hire somebody that, helps you set up the platform that's, incredibly antiquated and complicated. So we're like, what we can do with social media? We'll just keep posting.
Yeah.
We'll send product to people our niche target demographic. We hope they'll post about it or use the product. And from there, we were able to start bringing people onto our website. And that was the cheapest and easiest thing that we could do ourselves at that time.
Yeah. I feel like social media is just such a gift and also a curse for all businesses because it's so hard to do. But it sounds like you guys, it kind of fit right in with, how you envision the company. I mean, this is more recent, but how have you been dealing with the TikTok brief ban and now we're back and it seems like it's going to be okay, but how has that affected you and the decisions that you were making in the months leading up to it?
Yeah, the ban conversation has been going on for probably longer than a year.
Yeah.
So for us, it was important, and I think this is in all modes of business, of diversifying and not being reliant on one channel altogether. We saw what happened to the D2C only model.
Yeah.
It's not profitable. It's very expensive. Most of those companies don't exist anymore. So same thing with TikTok. We weren't solely reliant. We started building an Instagram community. We were taking our content that was on TikTok and Instagram. We were reposting it to Pinterest and YouTube. So we started becoming more alive on other platforms. And I think that's really important. If you're just relying on one thing and it goes away, then how do you show up?
Right. Especially
So-
when you have zero control over that.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I mean, I think we were lucky that we are, in this growth stage now that we don't need to be scrappy and just rely on TikTok as our form of brand awareness and marketing and our channel for consumers to purchase. However, I think it's incredibly detrimental to those indie brands who haven't fundraised, who are just trying to create a community for the first time, because it is really a platform of reach like no other.
Yeah, definitely. And did you always know that TikTok, as you were just starting to put together Fazit, were you like, okay, this will be something that we need to work on TikTok? Or was that just kind of a happy accident that you just started posting?
No, I think that is where our customer lives, and it was that the algorithm just worked in our favor.
Yeah.
Our products are very disruptive. The type of content we were putting out there were very graphic and disruptive, like no other brand had done before. And I think that community was living on TikTok versus on Instagram, and we were able to reach the most amount of people on that platform. I just think it's a really fun social media channel for, people to show up more authentically and vulnerably than they do on other platforms. And that has really been our mission from the beginning of revolutionizing beauty, being disruptive, not, having campaign images or messaging the way every other beauty brand has.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like just the vibe of TikTok really aligned with the vibe of your business. And so sometimes when brands ask, where do we need to be? It's okay, well, who are you? And would that person, as a brand, if your brand was a person, what platforms would they be on? What would they enjoy?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Nina, I'd love to hear more about how you developed the first products and how you chose which products to create first and how that process works.
Yeah. Well, I think, I look at what's happening and what's trending online. And for our ingrown hair patch, there was a huge craze of pimple patches, and we did actually launch those as well. And we saw what a reaction people had on TikTok and online to the patch peel videos and that gunk reveal.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, if we can have that happen with pimples with the same technology, we could do that with ingrown hairs, and it will create that same reactive response online of kind of showing that gunk reveal, that patch peel. So we, look at what's already working for us. We look at what's trending online, and then we try to find, a new product that we can intertwine both of those aspects to, that will be different, unique, that will create some viral moment and be satisfying for people to use and watch, but also has an effective response too. So kind of we think of all of those pillars when we're product innovating at Fazit.
Yeah, it sounds like just like a very modern version of market research. So instead of having all these focus groups where you ask people what they want, what they're interested in, you just look online and see what they're actually talking about, and what they're actually getting views on.
And in the early days too, we used to do very small batch orders and almost trial and test because we didn't have any risk. We weren't a known brand yet.
Right.
So, okay, if that product flopped, like, who cares?
Yeah.
We can't do that now as much because there's a lot of eyeballs on us. So, like, every product we launch has to be really tight and clean and well done, or at least, do well. But back then we could kind of test different products and see what stuck, what people liked. So it was
Were
a little
there
different.
any products that just like totally failed and you're like, let's
you know what was funny is we had this scar patch that we developed. When you get, so I actually thought of this idea from my dad's office because he's a plastic surgeon, and obviously people have lots of scars after plastic surgery. So, he gives people silicone tape to use for their scarring. So we came out with like the first silicone scar patches designed for like post acne facial scars that were cut and curated for that kind of format use. And it's a really effective technology. Like, there's really nothing topically on the market that works that well for scarring, and it just never really picked up that much. I think because it didn't have that like immediate satisfactory results. Like, it takes months to see results. Right. So
but
I
it's
love
trending
that
on TikTok right now. Are you seeing these silicone tape?
I was gonna say, I feel like I've seen it for wrinkles and stuff. It's like the silicone. I know that
there's different kinds of silicone. So people also, this one is like a ridged silicone. I mean, it's the same base ingredient, but the technology is a little different. So the wrinkle one is a smooth silicone.
Yeah.
So we also did think about doing that as well.
Yeah.
Never got there. We ended up going into the makeup patch space before we launched those. But yeah, it is trending now. I have seen people cutting. I'm like, that was the same idea.
Right. That's so interesting. I mean, because you're like, well, if I have this product that I know works really well and is being used by professionals, like, it can't fail. But I mean, that's just like the name of the game. You just have to test it. And I love that you said, okay, we're going to test it. And then if it doesn't work, we're just going to stop doing that. We're not going to pour more and more resources into it. Let's find something else that works.
And I think that was a strategy of ours that really worked. And sometimes when I talk to other founders, there's a balance of, okay, you have to really believe in your concept and your idea, but also there's a balance of like knowing when to pivot and when to change and when to like expand your identity and how you represent yourself as a brand. And I think we did that well. Like, we kept the core values of Fazit from the beginning, and it's in a lot of ways the same concept and idea we thought of, but we've also changed a lot and we've really pivoted from that initial concept. And I think that's helped keep us exciting and new and relevant and innovating.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to believe in yourself and like the core of the brand more than any individual product, because products are going to have to change and grow, and especially in skincare and makeup. So, that's very good advice. I would love to hear more. I'm sure you talk about this all the time, but I'd love to hear more about the viral moment that took Fazit to the next level. So Taylor Swift wore your product. Very exciting. I'd love to hear how that happened. Did you send it to her? Did she just pick it up on her own? How was your response? Tell me everything.
Yeah, when Nina was product developing the glitter freckle makeup patches, the first thing that came to mind was the Eras tour. She was on her European leg of the tour. Taylor is sparkly and bedazzled, and her outfits are like that. And I was like, wow, like, this product would be so great for her to wear on stage while she's performing. And Starting with that idea, I actually made a TikTok about it back in May of 2024. Like, wouldn't it be great, like, if Taylor wore this product? So my background in fashion, I know that like sending to celebrity management teams and their PR teams are like nearly impossible. There's just so many hurdles to get through in order to get them product. But I do know that makeup artists love free product. And I found that she worked with Lori Turk, was really like the only makeup artist Taylor works with. So I reached out to her makeup artist agency. I sent her products. This is back in May. And I mean, we've always been super scrappy at Fazit. We're really doing things differently with our strategies. So I was like, you know what? I need to get it all around her Taylor. Like, it's not just going to be her makeup artist. She'll never give it to her. I'm going to send it to Sabrina Carpenter's team, who is opening for her tour. I'm going to send it to the wives and girlfriends of the chief. So, like, in the fall, when she's in the VIP box, like, maybe one of the girls gives it to her.
Yeah.
And then, October 7th, I come home, the game is on. And a content creator messages me and is like, I think Taylor is wearing glitter freckles at the Chiefs game right now. And like, I didn't believe it.
Right.
And then I look at my Explore page on Instagram and it is every single podcast, Page Six, New York Post, Dave Portnoy to Barstool Sports, just has this like close-up shot of her face with the freckles on it. And I start crying. My fiance is like recording me crying because he knows this is a moment to capture.
Yeah.
I'm calling Nina. She won't pick up the phone. And I'm just like, it is like time to get to work because like our lives are just about to change. Then I put the TV on and like I see her and she's walking through Arrowhead Stadium, which is the Kansas City Chiefs stadium. I call my brother-in-law, he comes over. My fiance is like making Reddit and Twitter accounts because nobody knew what brand it was. So like the first thing we had to do is make sure that everyone is tagging Fazit.
Yeah.
Nina finally calls me back and she's like, what's going on? She's like, I was just like in a meditation. And I don't think Nina, like, I don't think like it like clicked for you at that moment what was going on.
Well, it all hit me literally in a second because I was with my friend in a 30-minute meditation. It's crazy how like 30 minutes can change your life.
Right.
And when I got to my phone, there was just an explosion. And I was like so overwhelmed with the messages. I had friends, family, everyone reaching out to me. And I think it was like very fight or flight moment for me. I was like, oh God, this is like our time. This is like, we have 24 hours to make this real. And I'm thinking ahead, oh my gosh, because I handle like a lot of the inventory. I handle the inventory issues and all that.
Right.
Are we going to be able to fulfill all these orders?
Yeah.
So I think it was like, for me, the emotions hit a few days later. I remember Aliett was crying the whole night. Every time I called her, she was like sobbing, I can't believe this is happening. And then I think for me, Friday, so that happened on, I believe it was like a Monday or a Tuesday, right?
Monday.
And then Friday, I remember, was the first day where I felt like I could kind of come up from air. And then I started sobbing. And I called Aliett and I'm like, I get why you were crying so much.
But
Now
it's
happening to me.
It's funny because I posted that crying video on TikTok the same night, and my fiance's like, oh, why would you post that? And I was just like, I don't know. Like,
that's what happened.
I'm putting it out there into the universe.
Yeah.
The video has 14 million views. That was the video that was converting people to our website for sales, which is like, thank God I posted that. It was like people now realize this is Fazit's glitter freckles that she's wearing. And people will comment on that video saying like, oh, why are you crying over a celebrity? And I mean, I'm a Swiftie, like it is really cool. But the other part of it that people don't realize is that this was like our moment of our business.
Yeah.
Like this was like that make or break time.
Yeah.
It's like, the peak of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And I knew from that moment, everything was going to change. And like, that's where the emotion came out of. It was 6 years of being an entrepreneur and the grueling full days and no results. And like, this was the result.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I think that a lot of people responded so well to the crying video just because, one, it's authentic. It's, that's what happened and that's how you felt. But it also highlighted that this was a small business that got their product onto Taylor Swift, who's arguably the biggest,
most famous person in the world.
Yeah, in the world for probably a decade. She'll be the most famous person in the world, and the small scrappy business was able to get their product onto her face. And it's not because the product was good. And it's because the founders were scrappy, and that's the American story. That's the American dream.
Yeah, and alignment. I have so many people asking me, well, like, how can I get my product on Taylor Swift? I was like, oh, well, I'll tell you how to do it.
Right.
But it is like there's a lack of alignment between celebrity and product and company endorsements. And glitter freckles are like so Taylor. Like that makes sense, right? Like there is total alignment there for her to be wearing this product. Right. And I think that's like what some people miss. And I think that's the reason why that moment performed so well for us is because like it's not just her, but it's her fans and her community base that also really resonate with what we're selling.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because I also think that, and this is true of people doing influencer marketing, where they're like, I just want to get the biggest influencer to talk about my product. And that's what you need to be looking at is who are their audience?
Right.
And do their audience want to buy your product? And usually you don't want to go to the biggest influencer because the biggest influencer has the broadest audience and you want to go definitely more niche.
Yeah.
But I also want to just reiterate to all of our listeners that this was not luck. I think a lot of times when this kind of like moment of like, this peak, sometimes you're like, wow, that's really lucky that Taylor Swift happened to like buy your product and like wear it. But you guys you hustled for that. You thought really creatively about, okay, we can't send directly to Taylor Swift, but we really want to get it on Taylor Swift. So let's just like flood everyone around her and maybe something will happen. But I think that hustle it's something that I really appreciate because it shows that like being successful in business is not luck. A lot of it's like where you are at the time and having that idea and being at a time where Taylor Swift is dating a football player. So there's like more people that you can reach out to, but knowing to do that and then being active about it is very impressive.
Thank you. And I think it's also like money can't make that happen either.
Yeah.
Like even if you like pay for that endorsement, like it also might not land.
Right.
Like we had Rita Ora and Lisa from Blackpink, the Korean pop star. They both wore our products. Hilary Duff has worn it. I mean, we've had so many, like Bethany Frank, like so many celebrities, Whitney Cummings, and there has not been that same, probably no conversion from those people wearing our products. But like it's Taylor and it's the community that she has created that creates that endorsement. It's a successful endorsement.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. So now with those kind of other influencers or artists that you've worked with, how have you shifted your strategy? Are you saying we don't need to go after these, famous people. We want to really focus on like how do you adjust where you're sending your product?
Yeah, it depends on the product, the campaign, the product purpose. Like, so right now, like one of our main strategies is sports and team spirit. We have a team spirit collection with all the different colors that you represent, let's call it a football team. So it's been sending to the wives and girlfriends of the players, to mega fans. And that's like such a niche audience.
Yeah.
It's very specific to what we're trying to go after. Female athletes, women in sports, broadcasters who are reporting about sports, owners of teams, sisters and wives and girlfriends of the players. So that's really specific. I think musicians are another category for us because the nature of the product is long lasting. It's performance makeup really because it is waterproof and sweatproof, or those are perfect spokespeople or influencers for us. So, I mean, every strategy we have is with intentionality. And I think the reason why we were able to disrupt in those really early days on TikTok and have virality is because we were going after specific people for a specific reason. Like, I don't ever send to like the makeup influencers of TikTok. Like they are receiving every product under the sun. But if you're sending to someone that like it relates to their life and how it can be incorporated into their daily life, like that makes sense.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the Team Spirit launch because not only are you like, you've been very intentional about these are like for sports teams, but I also think you're kind of serving an underserved community of like women sports fans and like women athletes. And so that's such a cool opportunity. I think women's sports in general is having like a really good moment. So it's just excellent timing. How did you come up with that idea of it's going to be sports teams related?
Yeah, I think after we launched the glitter freckles back in April 2024 over Coachella weekend. So we had the festival goers, the concert goers. Summer is always like a hit time for beauty, and we were going to go after sororities in the US that are like perfect
Yeah.
for like their rush outfits, and they have all these fun like costume themed events. And once we were on the college campus, we were at UT Austin, Texas. I was like, wow, like actually, like we need this in different colors to represent the different school teams or the NFL teams. And Nina and I always have this conversation of we both grew up with brothers. I mean, I was always on a field on the sidelines with my brother of ill-fitted female merch.
Yeah.
Like, why are jerseys just for men? Like, why are these
Yeah.
things so ugly?
They're
Like,
so ugly. They're so
and
ugly.
with like this like wags movement, which like I feel like a lot of people don't like the term wags.
Yeah.
But it's these women are showing up so chic to these sporting events. Like these outfits are phenomenal. And this is like an elevated way to show your team spirit and your fandom. And you still look really cute. Like you don't have to wear a baggy jersey and like cut it into a crop top to like show, fandom. So that it just like it felt fitting. And this all was a concept before Taylor even wore it to her boyfriend's football game.
Right.
So now like she has really connected the dots for women. And we have green, orange, purple, blue, red. And yeah, it's been super fun.
Amazing. Amazing. And so you had this huge moment with Taylor Swift. So how did that change the way that your business operated? Because I'm sure that I know that I believe you didn't run out of product, which is huge. But how has that changed the way that you operate and do inventory and all that good stuff?
Going back to what you were saying before about how like success and moments like that are not just luck, that's where this also really comes into play. There was obviously some luck involved in this, but like 99% of it was really strategy too. And we were growing at a pretty strong pace even before Taylor wore the freckles. So we had to escalate and elevate our inventory cadence, make sure that we were able to keep up with the growth and have enough for like, we kind of projected out, okay, if we have sales like this at this growth rate for the next 3 months, what kind of inventory do we need? So that's kind of the structure we were looking at for inventory. We were kind of choosing between doing our own warehouse shipping or bringing in a 3PL. And we decided to work with a 3PL for the time being, just because of the order volume we were doing. It actually wasn't that much more expensive to work with a 3PL. And that way we can kind of offload that and not worry about running a warehouse, because that's a whole other job. So we had a warehouse in place, and I had just placed a pretty huge inventory order to kind of hold us out for the next 2 to 3 months in sales. And I think the products literally arrived to our warehouse like 3 days before Taylor wore them, which was kind of crazy timing. The timing of all of it was, and maybe that's where like the luck kind of comes in a little bit, is like the timing of it was really, really magical. And that held us over for like the first week of sales that were coming in from the Taylor moment. But we had to work with our manufacturer. Like, I think communication is the biggest thing. So like that first night we were handling PR and Reddit. Aliett was more front of house. She was like, okay, what do we do to like make this like a huge PR moment? Brought on a PR person. And my job was more like, okay, how do we make sure we don't run out of stock? What do we need to do from an inventory perspective? So had a very candid conversation with my 3PL and said, hey, this might blow up. Like, whatever you have to do, bring in more people. Like, you got to train people tonight. Because they also were a pretty small 3PL and weren't necessarily used to orders of this volume and magnitude with one company. So I mentally prepared him for that. So the next day he could kind of start getting his ducks in a row and a team in place. And then I also spoke to my manufacturer and kind of said the same thing and said, I know typically our lead times are, let's say, a month, but we need more product in like 5 days. So whatever you can do to try to make that happen, we'll pay expedited shipping. Maybe you got to bring in more people or even work with a connected manufacturer to help make this happen. So a lot of those conversations went into place, and luckily our team's amazing. Everyone, felt like, I feel like our team just kind of feels like a family. Everyone knows like our success is their success, vice versa. everyone was on board to make it happen. And we made it happen. We didn't run out of stock, which is kind of crazy. Maybe we had a day or two of shipping delays, but other than that, we handled it.
Yeah.
And it was very lucky.
Having like the team and processes in place for when these moments do arise, that everyone knows exactly what their job is to do in order to support the viral moment.
Yeah. Yeah. If systems and processes are like, I think for a lot of people, like a lot of founders, it's the most boring part because it's not directly related to like the fun thing that you like makeup and you want to do the skincare, but the processes and the systems are so important. They're so integral. And they're my favorite part, actually. But I love that you had that set up already, ready to go. And I think, what you're saying is that you had to call, your supplier, you had to call your 3PL, and you really had to rely on these like third parties to work with you and do what you needed them to do. And I'm sure you'd been developing your relationships with these people over a long time, and those relationships probably really came into full effect during that time. So it is really scary, I think, as small businesses to have to rely on other third-party people. But ultimately, it seems like it all worked out for you guys.
Yeah. No, that's where we were lucky too, is
Yes.
we did have a good team and hardworking individuals. And we always say like the best team are kind of people who also have entrepreneurial spirits and are
Yes.
not there to just do the bare minimum job. They're there to grow and to expand as well.
Yeah. So if we zoom out a little bit and we think about kind of Fazit as a whole and your entire journey, you both have had very different previous experiences. Aliett, you've done a lot around DTC. You had a whole agency around that. You've done a lot of modeling. I feel like you've had kind of like a very creative side look at the world. And then Nina, you had always been working in this like product development in skincare and things like that. How have your experiences in your previous lives prepared you for all the challenges that you faced with Fazit?
Yeah, I think for me, in the really early days I don't think the actual job of being a model has come into play,
Okay.
obviously, for what we do.
You did mention that rejection really set you up to be able to
Yeah.
like,
No,
mindset.
you're right about that. And actually, my father-in-law called this out. He's like, when you're going into a casting, you're trying to play a role of what that person wants to hire you for. So dressing the part. And he's like, I see you in conversations or at cocktail parties being able to like tailor who you are for that conversation. So maybe there's a part of that. But I think for me, it was really the behind the scenes of working with the top hair and makeup artists, the top creative directors and chief marketing officers, and really being a part of a whole set in order to create an advertisement. And like that's what I remember like being so young and asking so many questions, and like that's not the role of a model, is to like be so inquisitive of what's going on. And I just loved seeing how things come to life of all of these people's really specific talents to create this like overall project. So probably a bit of that. And I think this like a fast-paced environment of it was, always on the go, traveling. I mean, I think work ethic, to like I had to be an adult at a very young age, and it was working with adults and people expected me to act like an adult. And I think I just grew up, incredibly fast, and I lived many lives by the time I got to university and started, my consulting company.
Yeah, I think for me, my past career experience was really building my first company, LaBruna Skincare, and I had started that early days of college. So I was doing that from like 18 years old, really. And at first it was more of a hobby. I had started like mixing and making products in my dorm room and just testing them on my friends and giving them little facials. But really, I think that kind of laid a foundation and basic understanding of entrepreneurship, not just like logistically and operationally of like how a company is run, but also emotionally. I think running that company, especially solo for quite a few years until Aliett came in, really mentally prepared me for what was to come with our company Fazit. And there were a lot of mistakes I made with LaBruna that I took and applied to Fazit. I remember one of them being, I love the products I made with LaBruna. They're my babies. But they are very inconvenient. There's a million ingredients.
Yeah.
I'm mix and matching them myself. I'm like doing all this labor. It's really heavy. It's very expensive. The sourcing was a nightmare. Like, I'm going to streamline everything. Every product I make in the future with Fazit, I want it to have like very simple, basic ingredients. I want it to all be done in one facility. I want the lead times to be 2 weeks. I don't want to touch these products. Like, although in the beginning I was packing stuff too.
Yeah.
It's a whole other story. But yeah, I think you take those lessons and what I did that was a little challenging. I remember because emotionally I was very involved in that first company and it was hard for me to let go. And we still own that company. We still have it, but we really have let it go for the time being and put it on the sidelines. And that was a kind of scary pivot because here we had this brand that was making some money, that was doing well.
Yeah.
And we could have just continued putting our energy and focus there. But we kind of looked at each other one day and said, look, we've learned a lot with this company and we've made a bunch of little mistakes with it. Like, let's put it on the side and let's almost start from scratch. And that's a scary thing to do as a founder. But I think in our case, it was necessary. And we wouldn't be where we are without having like let go and you kind of have to let go sometimes and know when it's time to move on. And you can always go back, but
yeah. And that takes so much maturity and like again, belief in yourself. And because I think a lot of founders struggle with this where when something's not working quite right, it's really hard to like, it's like that sunk cost of being like, but I put so much into it. But the thing is that you took everything that you learned and you put it into Fazit. So it's not like you're completely leaving it. Like, you're just taking all the good parts and putting it into the next
we
one.
basically got our MBA with LaBruna.
Yeah.
And that was, and then we use that knowledge for our new brand. And then it kind of keeps going that way.
Yeah.
Keep taking and you keep growing.
So true. For new beauty brands who are just getting started, is there any low cost, high impact marketing tactics that you would recommend to people just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, going back to our initial conversation of TikTok, I think something we didn't do in the early days that I wish we would have is documenting the founder's journey from the early days. And I see a lot of young women doing this now, and I find it inspiring. And they've just started their company. And showing the hard days, showing the tips and tricks, the lessons, the exciting moments, and really gets your customers really emotionally attached to what you're building and makes them feel like even wanting to buy and support your product even more because it humanizes it. So I wish we would have done that. I think, and I don't know if it's like a generational thing of we're like on the cusp of millennial Gen Zs. We're both born in 1996 of like this perfectionism mindset and this we're born in the age of when Instagram first launched, so like depicting life in the most perfect way and you're selling a different version of yourself. And on TikTok it is the utmost vulnerable stream of consciousness social experience, and we were just waiting for like the PR moments or our first retailer to announce to the world to make us feel legit. But like what we were doing from the early days were so legitimate.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that really worked is you crying on the internet. So
yeah, come on.
That's enough of it. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's kind of this generational thing. And I think Gen Z really craves authenticity, and TikTok has made authenticity the most viral thing you can do. So, but I agree, like, founders are so scared to put anything out there because what if it's wrong? What if it doesn't work?
Yeah, I think like a fear of being canceled or not putting your best foot forward or not, you're wanting to launch when it's perfect. And that's like the iconic tech quote of like, you launched too late if you were waiting to perfect it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like suggest anybody, and even if you're uncomfortable with the camera, it does not matter. Just like start documenting the journey of the brand. And that is probably the lowest acquisition cost of a customer.
Yeah. And then they'll be able to use it for the documentary when you're a huge success.
Yeah.
So what's next for Fazit? It's a pretty crowded industry out there, but you guys have been pretty disruptive so far. What are some new products coming out? What do you guys have planned for the new year?
There's so much good stuff. We're launching like 7 products in the next 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
We're doing holiday drops. We just launched our limited edition snowflake speckles that have been like such a hit, a bestseller. We're launching 2 new products for Valentine's Day that will be exclusive to our website and to Urban Outfitters. We have a really exciting retailer launch beginning of March. We have an even more exciting brand collaboration we're announcing. There will be so many new product categories that we'll be introducing. There will be at the intersection of beauty and sport. I mean, there's so much. Like Taylor might have been like, a peak in our personal, career lives of our journey we've been on, but it really has opened the door to so many new and exciting things for the world of Fazit. If it's where you can purchase Fazit, international expansion, and Nina's incredible product development.
Yeah, it sounds like Nina, you've been pretty busy. So many products.
We both have been. Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes that happens, and yeah, we're excited to share it all this year.
Amazing. And I don't think Taylor was your peak. I think that's the wrong word. I think she's the catalyst. Because I think that you have so much more to go from. So
yeah, I always say like she did put us on the map.
Yeah.
And a lot of like people really know who Fazit is now because of that moment.
Amazing. So to wrap up, I always ask the same question. If you could give yourself one piece of advice when you were just starting out with Fazit, what would it be?
I think, Aliett kind of hit a nail before when you said, like, just get started. I think that's one piece of advice we always say. One that I always like to say, too, is, just not take things so seriously. I think, like, sometimes it feels like every meeting, every product launch, like, everything you do when building a business is super intense and super high risk. But just take a step back and try to have fun with all of it. I feel like for me, it still is anxiety inducing. Don't get me wrong. Like I do have a lot of anxiety, but I try to actually enjoy my days and be a little more lighthearted about all of it and find the fun in it too, because that's why I started this career. That's why I got into product development. And like keeping that forefront of like why you started the business.
Yeah.
So that you don't get so stuck in the nitty gritty, like nuances and the aspects that aren't as fun.
Amazing. That's great advice. Great advice. And at the end of the day, you guys are making a really fun product too. I mean, there's a lot of very like cool products that solve a lot of really great problems, but at the it's glitter freckles.
It's fun.
You can have fun.
It's not so serious.
It's not so serious. Just have fun.
I think mine would be what we do is a really isolating career choice.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people who understand what you're going through, to try and surround yourself around more entrepreneurs or founders or someone building something, because your friends are not going to understand what your day-to-day is like, and you're going to want to talk to somebody about it. And I wish that's something we would have done earlier on.
That is very, very good advice. I've never heard that one, but
I'm still working on it. But
it's hard to do, but honestly, I mean, who you surround yourself with, that's kind of like what level you get to in your life. So surrounding yourself with people who are going through the same thing, other founders, is so important. The problem is that founders are so freaking busy.
I know. But at least like having a meetup here and there, especially with women, I think being a female entrepreneur is another complex layer to everything. And just having, if it's not a friend, maybe it's bringing a mentor or an advisor onto your team who can help you navigate these new challenges you're facing for the first time.
Yeah. Great advice, both of you. So to wrap up, where can people find Fazit online?
You can find us across all social channels at Fazit Beauty. And then we do talk a lot about the founder and entrepreneur journey on our personal channels. And mine is Aliett Butts.
And mine's just my name, Nina LaBruna.
Amazing. And we'll tag you guys in our social posts so people can go and follow you. Both of you have such really insightful things to say, which I'm not surprised by based on your business, but I've really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, share with a friend, leave us a review. And if there's anything you'd like to hear on an upcoming episode, please just let me know. For more insights, please follow us on LinkedIn or visit rightleftagency.com. And we'll be back next time with more stories of success, innovation, and marketing strategies to help you grow. Thank you.